Hey realtors, I'm Stevie with Keller Williams in Jacksonville, Florida. If you know of anybody looking to buy or sell real estate in Northeast Florida, I would love to send you a referral fee. My email is stevie@steviehahn.com. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you some tips and suggestions, tools for doing listing consults virtually. I'm using Zoom, so that's a platform I'm going to be referencing throughout this video, but I feel as though this video will be helpful for somebody who needs some suggestions on how to build a meaningful relationship virtually. It's so much different than being in person, and I'm going to share with you how I structure the calls, everything that I go over with them, also all of the questions that I ask. I think this will also be really helpful for somebody if you're not really that experienced with listing consults in general. So, and now, if you're not that experienced and now you're having to do things virtually, I think this video will be really helpful for you. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so clearly I have my laptop right here. I'm just using this so I can look at my notes and make sure that I share with you all the details. So I've been doing virtual calls via Zoom. And the first thing that I will suggest for you is that make sure that you're familiar with this platform or whatever platform that you decide to use. Because you don't want your customer to pop on that call and then not know how to turn the audio on, the video, and for you not to look like the expert. We want it to look like you've been doing a lot of virtual listing consults, right? Okay, so with Zoom, I suggest if you're not familiar, that you practice scheduling a meeting and setting that up and sending that link to a friend and have your friend jump on that Zoom call and you guys just kind of mess with the features and practice. One little suggestion that I have for you is on the bottom left-hand corner, you have to turn, the customer has to turn their audio on and their video on. So make sure that you educate them on this, that when they pop on that they're gonna need to do this. When you give them the link, it puts them in the waiting room once they go to the link in their browser, and you have to admit them into the room. So that's something new that Zillow's been doing as of right now. So make sure that you're paying attention for when they hop on so you can let them into the room. Also, I think that it's really important to still show up early. I always like to show up about 10 minutes early, making sure that you are at least on time. You definitely don't want to be late for this, right? So that's just a couple tips about Zoom. Make sure that you are familiar with this platform so that you come off as the expert. Okay. So before I dive into this, you of course need to educate yourself on the property per usual, okay? So what I did was I pulled the comps, exactly what the appraiser is gonna be looking at, what has sold within the last 6 months that's comparable to the subject property, right? Make sure that you're educated on this. I actually, if you watch my Instagram, which my Instagram handle, if you're not following me, is @soldbystevie, and I shared on there how I had a listing consult coming up, and I decided that, since it was virtual, that I was gonna drive by the house and I was going to drive through the neighborhood just to better educate myself. So that was actually really helpful because the photos online, they had painted it, they had added hardy boards, so it was a lot different. And so I suggest you doing that as well. Educate yourself as much as possible. So I made notes on here, which I don't talk about comps and the numbers till the end of the presentation, so I will dive in deeper, but this is something that you need to do that I wanted to touch base on prior to you getting on the call, is making sure that you educate yourself. So I made notes on here. I wrote down their name because it's a little bit different if you know them, but I didn't know these people, so I want to make sure I remember their name. And actually all of my listing consults, I did not know anyone yet up until this point, that I didn't know any of them ahead of time. So I made notes of what their names were, their address, when they purchased the property, the how much they purchased it for, the loan amount. I drafted up a range of what I think their home's worth, because keep in mind, I'm just basing this off of stats and I'm basing this off of older photos. So I just have a range of what I think their house is worth. And in general, I never want to be like, your house is worth exactly X amount, okay? I put approximate price per square footage on my notes and average days on market. I made notes of what is active in the neighborhood, how much, how many days on market, what's contingent, what's under contract, and then of course pulling sold comps and making sure that I'm fully educated on this ahead of time. I think it's really helpful if you have them send you videos and photos prior to getting on the listing consult, because I think that'll help you with providing a value of the home. But I do think that it's great. I've had people do a quick virtual tour of their home while we're on this Zoom call, and that's great. But you're looking at things so quickly that I want to be able to have these photos and videos readily available so that I can really analyze, because we do this presentation and we're looking at things so quickly and I might not remember, like, did they have stainless steel appliances? Was that flooring throughout? Was it in the bathroom? And you don't have anything to go back to reference to. So make sure that you get photos and videos, have them email that over to you. Okay, now let's discuss the actual listing consult. So they hop on the call, right? And they're familiar because you've educated them on how to turn on the audio, turn on the video. And I just introduced myself and I just try to use this time to relate with them, be personable. It's the same thing that I do when I'm meeting them for the first time. Okay, we're not just talking about stats right away and getting right down to business on selling their home. I really want to get to know them and build that relationship and build that trust. These are people who haven't met me before, so they don't know me. And so for example, the last listing consult that I did, they had mentioned that they had a newborn. So I started talking about the newborn and asking them questions like, what's the baby's name? How old is the baby? Have you been sleeping? A dog had barked. So we started talking about the dog and what type of dog it was. Maybe write down some questions for you to reference ahead of time on things to ask them, because this is a great time to build that relationship, right? So one thing that I wanted to mention, I do want to do a video that breaks down my 5 favorite books and what I'm reading right now. But I will suggest right now in this video is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's such a beneficial book to me personally, professionally, and it dives in deep a lot about just asking questions to get to know people. So I really utilize that in this initial meeting when they hop on, is just trying to relate with them and asking a lot of questions. Okay, so then I dive into things that they have already told me. So I made a note here, which I'm just going to reference. They had told me that they were moving to Long Island due to a transfer with the Coast Guard, and he's targeting to be up there mid-July, but there's a lot of unknowns with the coronavirus. We've been in the house since 2017. The upgrades are XYZ. So that was all that I knew about the property prior to our listing appointment. So I made a note of it here, and on the call, I reiterated what he had mentioned to me, and I just said, is there anything else that you think that I need to know about this? And they're gonna dive in deeper. It's just too much to email, to text, and when you're on this video, this is where we can dive in deeper on that conversation. And so they will take the conversation from there and provide you with more information. And while they're mentioning things, like, I'm taking notes, I'm writing down everything that they say so that I don't forget, working with so many customers and making notes of all the things while they're talking. Okay, so we're chatting about that, and then I'm asking them 2 questions. Have you sold a property before? And I make sure that I have photos and videos of the property. Okay, then this is where I dive in and I start talking about marketing and where I provide value and how I'm different from other real estate agents in Jacksonville. So I think it's a great time if you don't already know how to answer that. Like, how do you provide value? How are you different from other real estate agents in your market? Sit down and take the time and write out a couple quick sentences. So, you know, these people, they don't know me, but I don't want to go into a long speech about myself. But I think what is really important is just sharing how you provide value and how you differ from other real estate agents, and just keeping it to a couple quick short sentences. You don't have to dive in deep with paragraphs of information. Just a couple quick sentences and make them powerful. If you don't have sales currently or in the past, you're a newer real estate agent, a couple suggestions that I have are listing your team's numbers. You're on a team, so share those numbers, or potentially your brokerage's numbers. You know, you could just mention how you could just talk about what kind of experience you want to give your customers, and you could share some certifications that you have received. So I think those are just a couple tips and suggestions, but if you need more help with that, I'm happy to dive in deeper with anything that I mentioned. I'm trying to run through this video as quickly as possible, but if there's things that you need me to provide more insight for, I'm here to help you. So don't hesitate, comment below, please let me know what questions you have, what feedback you have for me. If you like this video, definitely let me know, because I really want to keep doing them for you if they're valuable to you. Okay, so having that quick conversation with them, and let's see, what do I have over here? Okay, yeah, so I have written out here 3 quick sentences of how I provide value and how I differ from different real estate agents, okay? Then I start talking about my marketing plan, and I started sharing with them how I've shifted and pivoted my business quickly because of what is happening. So I think they want to work with somebody who is thinking that way, because things are differently, and selling homes right now are different. So I kind of share with them, you know, before my marketing plan, I would present to you, one of the items on there is that I'm publishing the home in the Homes and Land magazine. But right now, no one's picking up the Homes and Land magazine. So I'm shifting, and I've come up with other innovative ways for me to market your property. So couple quick examples that I'll share with you, but like I said, if you need me to dive in deeper, I'm happy to. One thing, of course, professional photos, and I mentioned how this is an investment that, you know, I pay for this up front myself. Professional photos, doing a professional video of the home. But another thing that's really popular right now are Matterports, or these Zillow 3D tours. So I've been doing the Zillow 3D tours, and so the photographer, he does it himself, and they upload it to my Zillow profile. But so it's only on this one website, but what I have been doing is putting in the MLS in the listing description on the very first sentence, 3D tour available, so that when it syncs out to hundreds of websites, that's the first line that they see, and they know they can inquire to receive this video. Another thing is I've been putting on my for sale riders, or my for sale signs. I've been putting on a rider that says 3D tour available, or virtual tour available, or something. So that's another way for you to promote this video. But also, I have this conversation with sellers, and I mentioned how I'm actually really experienced with helping buyers purchase properties. Okay, sorry, my phone, I ended up getting a call, so it cut off that video. Okay, so I mentioned during the listing consult to the seller that I'm actually really familiar with helping buyers purchase properties sight unseen, and that's something that I've been seeing in our real estate market now. And I share with them, you know, with this, you have to make the buyer feel comfortable. So me being on the listing side, I want to do whatever I can during these times to help that buyer feel comfortable. So what I've been doing, which is what I've been doing when I was on the, or when I am on the buying side, helping someone purchase sight unseen, is I'm doing a tour with my phone of the house, diving in deeper and showing them things that they really want to see that you won't see with professional photos or this 3D tour. For example, people want to see what is the water pressure like? What is the pantry size like? How big are these closets? Can you show us the garage? So I'm doing a video just with my phone, nothing fancy, and I'm having that in my back pocket. So if a buyer or a buyer's agent reaches out to me, they've got a customer who can't come to the property, well, I'm able to provide them with this detailed video that they would love to see when purchasing a property sight unseen. So showcasing that, and that you're being proactive and that you're gonna do this video, I think is really helpful. So then I'm diving in and I'm kind of sharing with them one thing that I've been doing a little bit differently is I've been providing COVID baskets at the listing, which provide hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, and that if they list with me, that I will be dropping that off so that they can have for potential buyers when they come to the house, in case they don't already have these things, that I will be providing that for them. Okay, so what else do I have? We talk about showings. We have the discussion of how it works and how I use our super lock boxes, that it's not just a combo box. You know, this is huge for safety reasons, and I just go into detail about how the showings work when the agents go in on the portal to schedule, how it goes to their phones, and how we can put restrictions that we need to know within X amount of time for a showing to happen. So I just dive in deep and explain that whole process to them. Okay, then I kind of emphasize how I need to schedule the professional photographer in advance, so just to keep me posted if they do decide to use me, and that we're on the same page about timelines and when to getting it listed. Okay, and then I'm explaining the contract to close process. And I feel as though I've been incorporating this recently in listing appointments, and I think this is great because it educates the seller and it sets the expectation of what to expect, because they may not have sold a house before, and obviously they purchased, but it could probably be years prior and they don't really remember the whole process. So this just helps make things a little bit more seamless, in my opinion. So I'm explaining to them how I have a transaction coordinator, and I explain what her role is, and so that they can expect her to be the main point of contact. And I explain to them the earnest money deposit, how much it typically is, when it is owed. I explained to them the home inspection contingency period that's written in the contract, how many days it is and how that works. And then we're having the home inspection discussion and just reminding them on that whole process, but explaining to them how when a buyer presents a repair request, explaining that whole process and how a seller has 3 options, and I'm diving in and educating them on those 3 options so that they know how it works ahead of time. Repair requests are my least favorite thing, so it's been really helpful for me to have these conversations with them prior to when it hits and when it happens. Okay, so then we're having the discussion about the appraisal and how, you know, people, they're not in real estate every single day, and they don't remember these terms, and they might not remember how it works. So I'm talking about the appraisal and what the appraiser's job is and what he's going to be looking at, and setting the expectation that if the house doesn't appraise, that, you know, explaining those options and how that works, and talking about FHA, if someone comes in with an FHA offer in VA, and how that's a lot different from someone doing conventional or a cash offer. And then we discussed loan approval and getting to closing and how all that works. So, and how we've been doing closings so differently. My closing company, they have an option where you can drive up on the side of the building and they will do closing through a window. So you don't even have to get out of the car, you bring your own pen. So I'm having that conversation. Just educating them as much as possible. And then I have a ton of questions, and how I've come up with this list of questions is, one, they're questions of things that I just need to know about the property so I can educate myself better. But there are questions that have come up from previous home inspections that I just want to make sure aren't gonna be an issue on this transaction. So, and I think it's great to ask questions. It's not that you're coming off as unexperienced or not knowledgeable. It's that you're coming off as the expert and you're wanting to make sure that you know these answers. So I've got a list of questions. I'm not going to run through all of them, but I will share with you a couple. I'm asking if there's a termite bond, if it's transferable. I'm asking about the irrigation system and if all sprinkler zones are working. The age of the AC, has it been serviced? Do you have receipts of this? Have the coils been cleaned? I reference things based off of some stats that I found out online, that it was fully fenced, and confirming that's still the case. If there's a shed, what's the situation with the shed? What items in the house that would probably typically convey, but you're wanting to take with. I've had before that someone had a chandelier that would normally stay, but it had some significant value to them, and they wanted to take it with them. So these are things that we have to disclose to a buyer ahead of time. The most standard one is like the washer and dryer. So just educating myself on what items are staying, what's not staying, asking if they have a security system, talking about the HOA that I found online. It was X amount quarterly. Is this correct? Getting the HOA information. So that's just a couple questions for me to reference here for you. But ask all the questions. This is the perfect time. And then I ask, what are you looking for in a realtor? And then they dive in and they share with you what is important to them. And I make notes of that. And I kind of just tell them that, my job is I want to make this process as smooth as possible. And I think communication is really important. And I share with them how I do a Monday morning update, so that every Monday morning they will hear from me, and I'm discussing what is going on in their market, what new listings, what has gone under contract, what has sold. We're talking about feedback from the previous week, but I always set the expectation that I explain the whole process with showings and getting feedback, and how I reach out to every real estate agent and get the feedback for them. So they will be hearing from me throughout the week when I do receive those. So touching base on that, asking them how they prefer to communicate, through group text, email, if I need to call every time. So those things are discussed, and then we're discussing comps. So saving that to the very end, we're discussing comps, and I'm providing a net sheet for them so that they can see what they will net at the end of the day. It includes all of the seller closing costs and the commissions. So I feel like I just talked so fast and ran through that. If you have other questions, I hope this was helpful for you. Please let me know in the comments. If you want to see more videos, if you have a topic idea, please let me know. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope it was helpful. Don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and have a great day.